Today, on Who We Become Life Beyond Change, I'm joined by someone who has spent decades challenging the way we think about illness, survivorship, and the systems that shape our lives. Zachary is a 30-year cancer survivor, patient advocate, author, speaker, and founder of the groundbreaking nonprofit Stupid Cancer. After being diagnosed with brain tumor at 21, his life changed overnight, not just physically, but professionally, socially, and existentially. But what makes Matthew's story so powerful isn't that he just survived, it's who he chose to become because of it. He has built platforms, challenged institutions, disrupted healthcare narratives, and amplified the voices of patients who have too often felt invisible. His work sits at the intersection of advocacy and identity, asking hard questions about autonomy, power, and what it really means to live beyond a diagnosis. If you've ever felt reshaped by something you didn't choose, if you've ever had to rebuild life after life interrupted your plans, this conversation is for you. Matthew, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Amanda. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I'd like to just start at the beginning. So you were diagnosed at a very young age and have lived most of your life, your adult life, as a survivor. So how has that shaped who you've become and what your life has looked like?
There's there's a great line that we're all somehow born of our condition, and we become all the things we never expected to be when life goes uh uh not the way we expected. That sounds like a Hallmark movie waiting to happen. Man plans, God laughs. I'm full of metaphors today.
Yeah.
So I was diagnosed at 21. When I turned 42, I realized I'm now alive longer than I was when I was diagnosed. Like that, you when the age you're at when you're married and then you realize you
Right.
realize, "Oh, I'm older now than I was when," all that stuff. Yeah, it's existential to say the least. And I'm glad you used that word up front. I was a kid. I was a college student.
Wow.
I was a classically trained concert pianist, film composer, Broadway nerd, going to grad school who wanted to just write for Hollywood. That was my ambition at the time. And, like, man plans, God laughs. That's the theme of our show here. Out of nowhere, brain cancer,
Wow.
lost the use of my left hand, had to stop playing. My career was gone, and uncertainty took over. Context that this was 30 years ago. And a lot of what I talk about is through this lens of history and not terribly relevant to today with minor exceptions here and there. I was basically told I have a brain tumor on a blinking answering machine. So, that was how that worked in 1995.
Wow.
So, again, for the cheap seats in the back, for the Gen Xers and older in the back, that's how I try to predicate that everything's through this weird lens of the 1990s. And yeah, I was thrust into the unknown as most people always are when that happens, and I was grateful to have my parents with me. I was grateful that my dad happened to have decent insurance at the time. America was very different in the 90s with health insurance. And I never felt I was going to die. I just didn't know what to do with myself. And again, past this prologue, there were no support groups or programs, and mental health was like, oh, you'll be fine,
Yep.
pretty much. Walk it off. So I just kind of kept living, and I had a sub skill. I knew how to fix computers at the time. So I just got a job waiting to die and couldn't be a pianist anymore. And I spent in the 90s not really having a 20s, but I had a job and I just did my things, and I was miserable and depressed, and it was tragic and terrible and not woe is me. But everything kind of changed. I guess when like Live Strong, the yellow wristband
Yep.
things. I was like, oh, what's this? Shiny objects. And then I finally found like my first cancer buddy. And that's kind of the history of where it all started.
Wow. I can't imagine just your being told, just to go back to how you found out on through an answering machine. There's just
Yeah.
the
My
lack
mom will
of.
testify. We went to the radiology place. We got the scans, went out to lunch. And this was like December 95. And then we came home from the diner and we had one machine in the house as well. No, who had more than one? You could only have one machine in the
Right.
house, right? That was a one, and it was blinking, and no one would. Who's calling? Days of Our Lives is calling at 2 in the afternoon. No, no one was there, and it said, "We found something in your brain. Please come back." So
Ugh.
that's what they like. Wonderful. As I shred the cassette tape, out of the thing. Yes, that was
Oh,
that.
well, and it's interesting too. You were so young, and there wasn't really a lot of support groups or conversations. And so, what I know you have started different organizations and you've turned your story into advocacy. So, what did that look like as you started? You after Live Strong, you found a cancer buddy, but then how did you move forward with your ideas and reaching others?
So my cancer buddy happened. A lot of my stories, like things happen to be. I'm where I need to be by accident. Like I think that's just the irony of whatever space I have in the universe. And my cancer buddy's name is Craig. We're still best friends. He was on the board of uh, like the most influential cancer policy group in America.
Wow.
Just that. So I struck gold with Craig. And by way of that relationship at Live Strong and this group called the National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship, I learned what advocacy happened to be in 2004, 5, 6, 7. And Craig's variant of that was I get to make cancer suck less for the next me. I was like, all right, I'm not going to go yell at Congress. I'm not going to go do this. You go do these things. I'm not going to go research for a cure. I'm going to start to organize my people, the Gen X people. And a lot of that was based on data and annoying, nerdy science stuff that we were dying more and we didn't matter and everything. So I just channeled like my ad agency inner I fixed computers at the ad agencies for a decade. That was my plan B. I learned a lot about how to what's the Fight Club line? How to get people to buy shit they don't need with money they don't have.
Yep.
I learned how to do that really well. But what's that version in Cancerland? Right. And I was a brand guy, so I just invented the stupid cancer brand. Because that was edgy back then. No one did that in 2005 and 6. Everything was like, oh, pink and pretty and
Yeah.
races and marathons and you'll be fine and everything's wonderful and copacetic. Live Strong wasn't disruptive. It was just a different way to approach sort of unity. But stupid kids were like, go fuck yourself. We'd like to die less, please.
Yeah.
So that's where that wellspring came out of this. And it was the best use of my somehow then being alive for 10 years, filling a gap that didn't exist in the American culture zeitgeist narrative in cancer and was something I wish that I had when I was sick.
Wow. And so when when you launched this, how was it received? It seems very provocative. Now not so much, but back
Right.
in the 90s where you're pioneering this new space and with a provocative name and, reaching an audience that had never been heard or identified before.
So the narrative was called the young adult cancer movement. And the words young adult cancer weren't words. That was invented like by researchers to talk about epidemiology data based on age and fine. AYA, adolescent young adults, jargon, jargon, jargon. Stupid cancer was like the public version of this. It was like, we're not 80, our balls should work, our boobs should work, we should be able to date and fuck who we want, and this shit shouldn't get in our way. Right? That was
Yeah.
the angry permission to be pissed of the organization. We were defined a little bit as a bit of a Jack Skellington from like, what's this? What's this? Everything new. We were on it. We were on was it MySpace and Friendster and 12seconds.tv and Blogger and all Dig, Delicious, all these things that no one knows what they were anymore. We were the first pioneers of Web 1.0 to Web 2.0.
Wow.
So we just happened to be first because there was no one else daring. I mean, the American Cancer Society wasn't going to join Dig and Delicious. They had no idea what they're whatever. And people that got there, like, oh my God, this is cool. I hate that I'm a part of this, but I'm glad I'm here. No one ever said that before with regard to a cancer community because we were speaking like consumer. So there really was no plan. We just kept following the leader, but I was the leader and the internet was like pointing our way. Oh, we should have an online retail store and sell wristbands. Who does that? Right. Someone put this microphone in front of my face and said, talk to the internet. I'm like, who's out on the internet listening to this shit? And then my podcast was born in May of 07. So it was a complete amazing Mr. Toad's wild ride for a couple of years. But the traction was there because we were just there. And this was before any social media whatsoever. And there was no viral, there was no post, there was nothing that we would consider like today's standards of engagement and influence or manipulation. Again, happened to be. And that's how it all worked out.
Wow. And to look back now, even, 20 years, how much has changed in the landscape and the reach that you have is just amazing.
I
And
look
so,
at better problems to have.
yeah. And so humor is a big part, very candid conversations is a big part of your voice. And so when did you realize that laughter could be key or part of survival?
Well, I'm a theater kid. So everything, all the world's a stage. I'm a musician. I'm a theater kid. Like, I think if you are born into that zeitgeist, it's going to be inside you no matter what happens to you in your life. But it didn't exist in the seriousness of cancer. I stumbled upon, that was another website, Stumble Upon. It was another,
Yeah.
look it up, kids, Stumble Upon. Go back in the archives. I stumbled upon a website in the as I met Craig, which was the first like funny, humor driven cancer website. It was groundbreaking to look at a site that made fun of cancer. And it was obviously Gen X, and only we would have the balls to do something like
Right.
that. And my one of my mentors and friends, Heidi Adams, launched a website called Planet Cancer. And it was this small little boutique thing on a homemade website, but when you used to make them by hand, there was no Squarespace back then, no nothing back then. But it was cancer humor. And I felt like this is what I didn't know I needed. That the public isn't going to be ready for this, and that's the best time to launch. Taking what Heidi pioneered, she had T-shirts that said, "Young adult cancer is like Animal Planet with less hair," or something like that. You know, but these funny little quirky T-shirts gave me permission to feel like this is the generation that's going to disrupt. Back when that word meant something, the way in which we think about, negotiate with, and engage with having to be in the cancer community. And look, if you want to be serious, you go be serious over there. I'm not here to be the serious guy because there's plenty of shit that's way too serious.
Yep.
But if you want to dig into the inane, I'm right here for you. And when I can say the things that they can't, and then when you could say the things that they can't, we are where people go when they don't need that.
I love it. And there's a certain honesty in that too, being able to have that almost dark humor around it once you've lived it. It's like, all right, you know what? I've been through it. I've been through the hard shit. And I just, I don't want to be serious. I want
Yeah.
to be thankful that I'm here and be able to laugh about it.
Yeah. Fun fact, Stupid Cancer was not able to get funding from a couple of organizations at the time because they saw the name as being too risky.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Like, we can't fund you. Your name is too risky. Our compliance people don't like this. Like, I didn't name it Fuck Cancer. We'll let other people deal with that. I knew there'd be no funding if it was Fuck Cancer. And Fuck Cancer never gets funding. And that is like, there's 11 of those organizations. So, but Eric, context, right? Just having the company named Stupid Cancer was risk averse to some pharma bio companies to fund.
Wow. Well, and it just shows you how you were part of that disruptor movement to
Yes.
be able to say that now and really make a difference.
Hmm.
And so how, in your role, which is with humor, have you ever experienced where humor and this probably was a great example where the name stupid cancer was rejected, but it's ever been misunderstood within serious spaces like healthcare or when you are looking for funding?
I mean, there are some people that are just going to be Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller that have no sense of humor. And I feel bad for those people if they can't laugh at their own inanities of the fact that they work in this sector. And that's perfectly fine. But if I never thought of I was a brand, but irreverence really shouldn't be a brand. Everyone should have a little bit of irreverence and tolerance for irreverence, especially with something as serious as, cancer, rare disease, and healthcare. But I kept leaning into it. I mean, when I left Stupid Cancer and the podcast came with me, I renamed it Out of Patience. It's not as like jarringly edgy, but like it's who uses punny humor in cancer?
Right.
But now it's a thing people use in cancer. But I also look back to some of the copycats, the wrong word. I would say parallel partners created wonderful organizations like Save the Tatas, right? Great organization, right? Boobless, right? Just, um, there was another one called Nuts for Nuts, right? Like for testicular cancer. I love that these were cropping out as a way of we're going to define ourselves by being a little irreverent. Today, there's no irreverence because everything's irreverent and everything's inane. But the fact that there can be this continuity, like as I didn't want to be, I wasn't first. Heidi was first. Planet Cancer was first. Stupid Cancer pivoted off her brilliance, and all credit where credit is due to Heidi Adams for that. We need to have a certain level of perspective in that we're choosing to be irreverent, and it doesn't mean we're not taking it seriously. So if you don't have a sense of humor, I'm sorry. If you don't understand this, I'm sorry. But none of us want to change who we are and how we're using this to manage our own stress, grief, and PTSD.
Absolutely. And so you've carried this advocacy work for decades. You've started a movement, you've been a disruptor, we'll touch on this later, but you've got a book coming out. So how do you prevent burnout when you're doing this work?
I'll let you know when I figure it out.
Fair.
When I get there, you'll be the first to know.
And so but with that, have there ever been moments where you've just needed to take a step back and a break from, taking on that role of disruption and, being a voice for those who aren't able to or haven't been able to find theirs yet?
Well, I'm also I'm not bipolar. I have like some kind of neuro something, you're a gifted kid in the 80s, whatever the hell I meant, right?
Yeah.
So that's in me. I own that. I is coming to accept that I'm enough is just but what comes with the territory is I can get overwhelmed, I can get depressed. I'm a normal person. Like things bother me. I'm having a rough day today. This is therapy for me. This I went on your show. This is a therapy session for me to calm down, to focus on nothing but this and to be present. This is the stuff that calms me down. So yeah, I don't know how to manage this. Right? And I think that's a good problem to have, but it's what fuels me. And I'm an off switch or an on switch. And ask my wife and kids, it's just how I therapize.
And so when you spoke a little bit about your podcast. So how have you grown that and, what I guess for anyone listening, how do they find you? What can they expect with your podcast?
Well, I'm an overnight success that took 20 years on the air. So I've just been doing it for so long
Wow.
that the show, everyone that is still around for, I mean, that could be taken in a very dark fashion. But anyone still around that remembers the stupid cancer show, what had millions, we didn't call them listeners, we called them streams back then. So we had millions of streams back then and it was live. If you missed it, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
You're done. You can never see it again. Like Friends in the 80s, you got to wait for Netflix, right? That's what it was. These days, it's a different utility. Because back then it was brand new, it was irreverent, it served a purpose, people were desperate, there was nowhere to go, there was no democratization of anything. And today, now it's just a lifestyle thing that I hope you don't ever have to need to listen to,
Right.
but I've just been doing it for so long that people know it's what I'm now having a book. It's like I have a second baby now. I have my show and I have a book, right? I have two things you can cover. But from a nerdy branding perspective, I mean, Matthew Zachary, I finally, as of the show, I finally redid my website. So now I really have a legitimate ecosystem. So if you don't know about the show, you know about me. If you don't know about me, you know about the show. Like if you just, I'm there. And just yeah, having done it for so long,
Sure.
I'm I'm caked into the oven walls of Google. So it's really hard to not know. But I'm not normally the thing you're looking for, because if you're looking for this, it means you've been screwed by health insurance. You've gone through some tragic cancer, rare disease, healthcare shit. And I'm still the club you're sorry you have to join,
Yep.
but I'm thrilled you're here if you have to be here.
So you were here pre-Google. You've been around.
Yes.
And so that actually brings me to your book. So I had an opportunity to read your book, and I love the fact that you are bringing an honest perspective to the American healthcare system and the challenges that anyone who has unwillingly joined this group has to face. So can you talk a little bit about that and what people can expect from your book?
Sure. So my book is called We the Patients: How to Understand, Navigate, and Survive America's Healthcare Shit Show, but it's really America's Healthcare Nightmare. And being a theater kid, I wanted to consider this in the same way I think about anything is what do I want to say versus what does America need to read?
Mm,
And where's the dividing line? And I think that's a major problem just in a content creation therapy moment. No one gives a shit what you have to say. They're going to care how you make them feel and why.
yep.
So it doesn't mean what you have to say isn't what's going to make them feel, but you always have to look at the crowd first. And if I look at 20 years of advocacy and thousands of relationships and dozens of nonprofit organizations, the grand message that America needs to hear is that we're all angry together.
Mm,
Don't go kill CEOs. Bad news. Don't do that. Bird or bad. But I also learned that the majority of Americans don't know about our little sacred bubble. And how could they? If you add up all the mailing lists and all the Facebook groups and you're talking maybe 5% of everyone with cancer is part of the fishbowl.
hmm
And they don't know. And we can't keep castigating them to know what to do when you never wanted to be shopping in this bad, broken Sears, where someone else tells you how much it's worth and whether you can even have it in the first place, or you need the cheaper blow dryer before the nice blow dryer. So I felt like what the message was is permission to be pissed,
mm,
a prescription to organize. And here's an understanding as to why it's working against us on purpose. It's non-conspiratorial. It's non-threatening. It's historically accurate, and it's comic. The dark humor in this book is what makes this relevant to other books that it could be compared to, but they're all written by doctors who have mostly no sense of humor. And I say that with love because I have many friends that are doctors, but if you're going to write a book and you're a doctor, have a sense of humor. You probably
right.
can't. So there are plenty of brilliant books out there written by doctors about the system and about this and about this and about this, but there were no books. And I can say this with confidence because when you're shopping it to a publisher, they want to know what your comparative titles are. On the shelf, what's next to the book? And they couldn't find anything. So I have a book with no comp titles. So extra special opportunity to surprise what I think America needs to read, hear, feel, think, and do. And that's the end game. The end game is, here's why it works the way it does. Let's stop saying it's broken. Let's stop marching in the streets. Let's stop yelling at our senators and accept the fact that this is how it works today. This is why it works today. And this is how it's been set up to work for 50 years. And once you can understand that in like lay speak, like, here's why we just can't have nice things.
Yeah.
It is we were hoping it's something that can educate people in a way that gives them not like, oh, I'm just going to do this now, but oh my God, this is truly an American issue. This is a anthropologic, socioeconomic, a cultural issue with the nation and how it's functionally built by Wall Street,
Mm-hmm.
not even by elected officials. So that's the perspective I wanted people to have. Like, it's okay to decay, George Takei's line.
Yeah.
It's okay to decay. American healthcare is not broken. It's working by design. We have to rig it in our favor. And what does that mean if we organized as patients instead of yelling and screaming, we should have this, we just make it happen as a voter block?
Oh my God. I love it. I just picked up a quote you said, the permission to be pissed, and you're right, we're all angry together, but sometimes being part of this group, you just don't even know how to vocalize it. And so
Right.
I what I admire about your work is that, again, you went from web 1.0 to web 2.0. Now you're on your second version of disruption.
Yeah.
You disrupted the cancer arena, and now you are again bringing disruption to the healthcare. Just really incredible.
Yeah. I think in the book, I talk about advocacy 2.0, that everything, and I'm not going to, again, I throw people under the bus. I'm making an observation that Occam's razor is at play right now
Hmm.
with patient advocacy and policy work in healthcare. We keep hoping that insurance will cover this and states will do the right things and this will happen. And we keep hoping and hoping and hoping in our hill days and our pretty pictures and our things. That's dial up by comparison to what this country can do if it rethinks what organizing is as a lobby group versus these henpecked little thousands of nonprofits that are all, only I can do this. And nothing against the mom and pops, but you know what? You can't. And this collectivism idea, and I've been witness to this for 20 years in the nonprofit space, there is very little collectivism in nonprofit advocacy. And I want to exist upstream from that, because the American people who need this help don't give a fuck that you don't believe in collectivism. They want to not die on hold.
Yep. Oof. Chills. I mean, just thinking about what this could look like, a year from now, 5 years, 10 years from now,
Mhm.
if society as a whole comes together, these nonprofits it's so incredibly powerful. It has the opportunity to be so powerful.
Yes, we hope so.
Excellent. And so if as we start to close, and if thinking back on who you were at 21, if you could speak to yourself at diagnosis, what what would you want your former self to know?
Invest in Apple.
Solid advice. Yes.
That's it. One thing. One thing. Buy Apple. Because that was right before the collapse. So it
Yeah.
would have been great. 10 cents a share. Are you kidding me? Yeah. I assume you meant pragmatically.
Or, honestly, that's great advice too. If I could go back, I would certainly make some different investment
That's it.
choices.
Buy Apple. I have no other advice. Buy Apple. Oh, and there's a pandemic coming. Honestly, there really isn't much. And I've been asked this question before, because I talk about having congenital chutzpah in the book, but I've been using that term for, not everyone's born with congenital moxie and this sort of self-agency of, I think theater kids have this stuff, but not everyone's a theater kid, and some people have it. They don't. Comes in handy. It's a blessing and a curse. But I've never once ever thought that I just couldn't do something. And I remember very vividly, at least in I don't remember if I vocalized this, 30 years ago, that like, I just got to get back to college and graduate, guys. I don't have time for brain tumor. Can we get rid of this thing and can I just go? Like, that was my mindset the whole time. It doesn't take away the anxiety and the fear and the anxiety and the pain and the
Oh,
suffering,
sure.
but I just did. So my advice to me back then is still just do and never ask why.
I love that. I love the phrase congenital.
Chutzpah. It's a
Obviously,
nice
through
Jewish little phlegmy thing. You could just say moxie, congenital
moxie,
moxie.
congenital moxie is something that obviously has carried you through disruptions and advocacy disruptions and, really making such an impact on the world and the way that the cancer community is viewed. So, as we close, I know you had mentioned your website. You mentioned your upcoming book, um, your podcast. How else can people get in touch with you, follow you, and be part of the disruption?
I'm very strategically not on a lot of social platforms because I think you just create a lot of noise and you dilute your value in a vertical. That's a very agency way to think about it. I'm here, here, and here, and nowhere else. If you want me, I'm here. So I'm not on YouTube. I'm not on TikTok. Um, but MatthewZachary.com is my ecosystem. I have a newsletter, a blog. I have my book. I have my show. And if anyone listening or watching is in the New York City area, my book launch event is me returning to the piano for the first time in 22 years for a live piano concert up by
Wow,
Lincoln Center on April 28th. And that event is on my homepage.
that is amazing. Wow. Congratulations on coming back and what a monumental moment, but with a launch and a return.
Yeah. It's a quirky year. It's my 30th cancer anniversary. My book's coming out. I just read my website and I haven't given a public concert in 22 years. So that's that website is mzlive.org or it's on matthewzachary.com.
Excellent. Well, Matthew, thank you again for the time sharing your experience, your journey, and your congenital moxie, which I know will be an inspiration to many. And what really stays with me from our conversation is that a diagnosis, while it may change your life, it doesn't get to identify or define your identity. And so your journey reminds us that becoming isn't passive. It's not something that just happens to us after hardship. It's something we actively shape through voice, through courage, and through choosing how we respond. So, for anyone listening, if this conversation resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with someone who's navigating their own in between season. And if you haven't yet, make sure you go and check out Matthew's website. And if you're in the New York area, please go see his first concert, piano concert, and book launch. And so, Matthew, thank you for your honesty, your fire, and your commitment to making sure that patients are not just seen as statistics, but as people. And to everyone listening, life will change you. But the question is, who will you become? So, Matthew, thank you so much for your time.
This is an honor. Thank you, Amanda.